Hello, YouTubers. Happy November the 11th, 2016. On this Friday, Veterans Day, with us today. And please do not forget your veterans. If you've got some in the family, you need to give them a call, check on them, tell them you appreciate the service that they have performed, or maybe there's some veterans in your neighborhood or perhaps in a club or something that you belong to. Please show them some respect today for Veterans Day. We've got a lot of stuff in the news today, so I'm going to hop right on into it. The first one is off of regated.com, and this one says Democrats resort to violence after Donald Trump wins the election. Millennial Democrats are not as peaceful and tolerant as they wish to be perceived. Young Democrats proclaim that they love everyone regardless of race or gender, disagree with them, and they'll show that they are incredibly intolerant. Throughout the history of this election, the leftists have engaged in violent aggression against Donald Trump, his campaign, and his supporters. The following videos in this article and the photos are graphic. The left has started to riot after Trump's election. In Philadelphia, a man had his ear bitten by a Democrat. All of these URLs are in the description of the video, and you're welcome to pull them up and check them out and look at all the tweets and the videos and the links and everything that's in them if you want to see more about these things. This article goes on, says in San Francisco, thousands of people are blocking traffic protesting Trump's election. There are more protesters burning a United States flag in protest. And in New York City, there's massive riot and protest of hundreds of thousands. Update on this. Let's see, this just came in. It says police have arrested hundreds in cities around the world. 2 policemen were shot in Pennsylvania. More protesters are burning the American flag. Several officers were injured in Oakland. Trump has been called divisive and violent over and over again from the left. From all the evidence we can gather, it's obvious the opposite is true. At every turn, the Democrats have been investigating violence, from the bird-dogging tactics of Hillary Clinton campaign to the cry-bully millennials burning the American flag in protest. The thing they all seem to have forgotten this election is that we are united as Americans. This is not a division separated by race or gender, but an intellectual division of people who are used to getting their way. For 8 years, we have witnessed poor leadership in our country. This has caused hatred between financial classes, races, and even we finally have a chance to move forward with an administration that listens to the people and not the wealthy corporations who can buy their voice in the government. If the millennials who are rioting truly want to see change, they have to be open to compromise and embrace the people they've been calling racist. We will welcome them with open arms to build a better world together. I saw an article on Facebook, and I do not have that to include, I wish I did, where there are advertisements out that people are being hired by the leftists for up to $18 an hour. And I guess it's like up to 77 hours a week, I think it said, protest. So, these are hired protesters, a lot of them. And, they're being put up to all this to cause division and cause hate and discontent and trouble. The next one we have here is off of humansarefree.com, and it says, verified report. These cops left Standing Rock and refused to return. Widespread outrage over both the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline and the violent police crackdowns rages on. That outrage is spreading even to police agencies now, returning from deployment to the reservation. 2 departments have already refused to return. citing personal and public objections. An army of sympathizers is repurposing social media to combat police efforts in Standing Rock. Minnesota's Hennepin County Sheriff's Department is among that group. Lawmakers, according to NPR News, found police activities in Standing Rock inappropriate. It's to the point where they're considering rewriting legislation to avoid future deployments to incidents like the pipeline resistance. Police officials, of course, declined to comment on their return from North Dakota or their feelings on what's happening there. It's also made the task of rebuilding trust with the community an even loftier uphill battle. I do not support Sheriff Stanek's decision to send his deputies to North Dakota, says Lieutenant Governor Tina Smith, nor did we approve his decision to begin with. I do not have any control over the sheriff's actions, which I think were wrong, and I believe he should bring his deputies home if he hasn't already. Smith's comments split the state government, however, and she was targeted. Minnesota State Representative Tony Cornish condemned Smith for prioritizing the rights of protesters over the needs of law enforcement, saying she should apologize to the cops. Sheriffs from Wisconsin, Dane County were more empathetic, refusing to return, according to the Bismarck Tribune. Sheriff Dave Mahoney made the decision after a wide cross-section of the communities decried the deployment. All share the opinion that our deputies should not be involved in this situation, says Mahoney. Deputies were deployed to Standing Rock for around a week. Sources report Dane County wasn't involved in recent arrests, a string of which scooped up the alderwoman from Madison, Wisconsin. Aide Rebecca Kimball traveled to North Dakota as a legal observer, filming and participating in prayer ceremonies. When Morton County officers, if they can still be called that, grabbed and arrested her for engaging in a riot. According to Kimball, no riot was happening. Departments have been recalled, with at least one staying behind for a more couple weeks. Many other citizens have been charged for trespassing and participated in non-existent riots, including journalists. One of the most renowned reporters who faced DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline, related charges was Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! Filmed dog attacks by DAPL contractors who lacked proper canine licenses. The contractors have also been accused of unethical surveillance, intimidation, and sabotaging the movement by attempting to make authorities believe the protesters have finally turned violent. Other journalists, including documentarian Dia Salzberg, face decades in prison for filming climate activists at a separate oil project. Journalists from independent outlet Unicorn Riot, who recently reported use of a sound cannon on water protectors, have also been, I think that's supposed to be protesters, have also been arrested. Thousands of opponents to the police have flooded Standing Rock to repel construction and police brutality. More still have taken to the internet, spreading information in the form of writing, video, photography, and art. Among the renegade tactics is using Facebook to check in at Standing Rock. According to The Guardian, over 1 million people, even people I know, have joined the action. It began with a Facebook post disclosing that Morton County Sheriff are allegedly using Facebook check-ins to track protesters. Checking in, whether you're at a friend's or restaurant or escalating resistance, pinpoints your location to a T. Once you check in, notification is sent out to, yes, your friends, but theoretically anyone who's capable of watching. It's yet another tool in the bag of tricks authorities have deployed against civilians and are likely utilizing in Standing Rock. Some detractors have dismissed the social media's action as a waste of time. An editor at the fifth column in a Facebook post narrating a debate on the subject he had. Editor Justin King pointed out that even if the check-ins wasted 2 minutes of time, multiplied by hundreds of thousands, that equates to 2 months of wasted police work. Now imagine how ineffective the surveillance may be with millions continuously checking in. Morton County Sheriff's Guardian reports called claims of police surveillance misguided rumors. Morton County, by their own account, isn't monitoring Facebook check-ins for the protest camp or any location for that matter. Before you trust them, consider that Facebook access for water protectors was reported as blocked during a military-style raid on the camp. Data collection nationwide. Other police departments are similarly sketchy when pressured to speak out on their surveillance technology. Milwaukee Police Department hid the use of cell site simulators or stingrays from the courts for months. Stingrays mimic cell phone towers, thus tricking phones into providing all manner of user information and data. Nearby, the Wastastosa, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, police department, despite having admitted to collecting and analyzing cell phone data in its public records, denied ever even coming close to a stingray. It took the department 5 weeks to respond to that open records request, which is considered unusually long. It remains unknown how Wauwatosa Police Department, which has been blasted for lack of transparency before, collects cell phone data. In addition to the general retreat of departments, 2 officers have already turned in their badges in support of the protesters. North Dakota Water Protector Red Hawk, Mint Press reports, disclosed the revelation. The individual also pointed out, you can see it in some of them, that they do not support the police actions. Some are waking up, they continued. We must keep reminding them that they are welcome to put down their weapons and badge and take a stand against the pipeline as well. Hints of shame could be seen in the faces of officers who confronted protesters as they blocked them from prayer grounds. As the protesters condemned officers, some of whom looked down or off to the horizon in shame. The modern era of the modern era of internet and technology gives us with a plethora of ways to express ourselves and help one another. Standing Rock is quickly becoming a standout of that fact. Citizens, journalists, and activists are using the internet to achieve their own goals, whether that be spreading information, being blocked, tracked, police movements, sending food and rations, or just voicing opinions. Standing Rock's resistance is spreading globally, with protests occurring in Europe and elsewhere. As long as construction doesn't stop, the movement won't last. So there's the information on Standing Rock. Now, the next one we have here is off of Natural News, and it says, Adams, the establishment Democrat Party must be dismantled. The undefeated left turns to hate. Liberals unleash beatings, death threats, and calls for mass murder of Trump supporters. Now that the votes have wholly, now that the voters have wholly rejected the retarded, delusional leftist vision for America, which we might as well just call liberal suicide, the real character of the left is on full display. Today, angry liberals are turning to extreme violence and hatred, calling for the killing of Trump supporters, the assassination of Trump, and the bloody beatings of all whites. Yes, racism, violence, bigotry, and hate of the left has finally come out of the closet. I saw this coming, of course, long ago. If you're a regular Natural News reader, you may recall my August 30th article entitled, Chaos Will Erupt Across America in Less Than 100 Days, No Matter Who Wins the Election. Clockwork, it's all coming true exactly as I foresaw. In a section of the article entitled "If Trump Wins, the Left Goes Full Terror," I wrote, "As I've publicly predicted numerous times over the last year, if Donald Trump wins, the radical extreme leftists go on a violent rampage that leads to the rest of us begging for martial law. After half a dozen cities burn with riots and looting, Trump invokes national emergency, deploying National Guard troops across the most devastated urban areas, and the radical left finds itself in a shooting war with the government." That article, of course, was widely mocked by the incompetent, idiotic media and brain-damaged leftists in general, yet it turned out to be 100% correct, as we all can see. Once again, Natural News was right, and the entire establishment was incredibly wrong. Are you surprised? Now the left is going full terror and calling for mass killings of Trump supporters and white people in general. Yep, genocide is now the new political goal of the left. Violent leftists call for mass murder, executions, and beatings of Trump supporters. From Mediate, we learn that the Los Angeles Latina woman is calling for mass deaths to defeat Trump. "People have to die to make a change in this world," she says, meaning, of course, that white people must be murdered en masse for her own race to conquer California and take over America. But this call for genocide, mass murder, is just the beginning of how leftists really feel now that they've lost the White House, the Senate, the House, and the U.S. Supreme Court. They just can't wait to murder as many white people as possible. To them, it's called tolerance and inclusiveness because they are mentally deranged lunatics, of course. As this InfoWars article shows, a Chicago mob of Clinton supporters beating a Trump voter to a bloody pulp, all while screaming, "You voted Trump, you're going to pay for that stuff." InfoWars says here, another woman shouts, "Beat his ass," while another man is heard laughing before remarking, "Don't vote Trump." A second video of the incident, which is dubbed the with the F Donald Trump song, a phrase now being chanted by protesters across the country, shows one of the attackers driving away the man's vehicle while his hand is still stuck in the window as the car drags him down the street. In other words, the lynching of whites across America has begun, courtesy of your friendly neighborhood leftist bigots. Not to be outdone by the violent racist bigots in Chicago, the triggered snowflakes in Oakland have decided to start setting fires to their own communities while screaming, "F Donald Trump." The idiocy is, try this again, the it is this is, this tactic is, of course, a perfect representation of the extreme hatred, destruction, and racism of the political left. Anti-American leftists in Portland, Oregon, another bastion of communists and leftists, so-and-sos, decided to set fire to the American flag while chanting racist, bigoted memes against Trump and his supporters. And there's video in this if you'd like to take a look at what's going on. It says, meanwhile, Twitter exploded with a barrage of explicit death threats against Donald Trump from enraged, bigoted, murderous Clinton supporters. Christine W. Chandler tweeted, "Someone, anyone, please take the sniper rifle and kill Trump. Shoot him in the head." Christine Chandler is a leftist moron, of course, who doesn't even know how sniper rifles work. She also has no clue that if things move toward civil war in America, she is more likely to be taken out by a sniper rifle than Donald Trump. Another African-American woman tweets, "I have never in my life wished death on anyone, but dear God, I'm begging you, please kill Trump." Another Twitter blares, "Death to Trump and all his supporters." And there's a list of these tweets in here if you want to see them. One Twitter user named Molly explains why the murder must include more than just Trump. If Trump gets assassinated, then y'all going to have Michael Pence and he is possibly even worse. So you need to assassinate both of them. Another African-American user named Greg explains why niggas better not miss. I just pray that the first nigga who tries to assassinate Trump. Yet another violence promoting leftist moron adds to the calls for murder with this precious tweet. Trump ain't president till Inauguration Day. Still have time to assassinate both Trump and Pence. As Breitbart.com is reporting, the genius left in California, who have already destroyed their own economy, are now shutting down freeways to further disrupt their own state. Protesters marched downtown Wednesday night and blocked traffic on the 101 freeway to show their displeasure at Donald Trump's election as President of the United States. Prediction: Trump supporters will start self-defense any day now. I predict that armed Donald Trump supporters, law-abiding citizens who allegedly carried concealed loaded weapons like I do, will start shooting back in self-defense. For months, I have urged Natural News readers to get armed in preparation for terrorism, murder, and violence of the hate-filled leftists. I've urged you to carry a spare magazine and get safety training with your handgun so that you can operate it in a safe and consistent manner. Yes, shooting violent attackers is a form of safety. Now that moment has arrived. Today, I call on all Trump supporters to do three very important things. One, defend your lives just as you have defended your nation in this election. Number two, follow the law and do not instigate violence. Number three, carry responsibly and only use firearms as a last-ditch necessary defense to halt violence and save lives, including your own. Now stand in unity against leftist violence, terrorism, and murder. We must defend our lives, our families, and our communities against violent extremist left. Where justified, we must deploy our Second Amendment rights in the legal self-defense of our lives and property. This is how we make America safe again and send an important message to the violent, hate-filled, racist left. So there you have that article. The next one I have is off of the dailysheeple.com, and this one says Hillary's real reaction at losing, crying uncontrollably and blaming Obama and James Comey like a sore loser. When you're trying to figure out how you lost a rigged election, but you accidentally delete the email with full details of the plan. Psychopaths never take responsibility for their actions, and that especially includes their failures. We all saw Hillary eke out of giving concession speech the night of the election, sending her personal man weasel, John Podesta, out there to send all of her supporters or bored people, her campaign paid to be there through Craigslist, home once it became clear she wasn't going to win. The next day, after making everyone wait for over an hour, she finally came out and delivered the most trite concession speech ever, possibly shedding one whole tear, and it was for herself. That's debated. It might have just been an itch. To who? A crowd of supporters? No. The Clinton camp actually turned supporters away and only allowed campaign people and donors to attend their final 2016 election speech. Anyone who knows how fake this woman's veneer really is, realizes she was probably furious at losing. More than furious. Furious probably doesn't even begin to describe it. So what really happened? According to the report below, she was up all night crying so uncontrollably that she couldn't speak intelligently and blaming James Comey and Obama for her loss. Apparently, Obama just didn't do enough. Even at the end, she's still blaming others for her failure. Still doesn't get that even with the cheating, manipulation, and fraud, and even with the entire mainstream media propaganda machine jacked up to 11 for her, and even with the president running around stumping for her like a faithful pet sidekick, the majority of America simply did not want her, to the point that even the system couldn't cheat and force Hillary's way in. And there's video in this if you would like to see some of this video and see what all this has to say here. Some of the comments are interesting at the bottom of it. You might want to pull that up and take a look at that for your entertainment pleasure. The next one is off of allnewspipeline.com, and this one says, Satanic globalists threaten violent revolution upon America as thousands of George Soros zombies are triggered by Donald Trump in reality. And this reads, just possible, or try that again, possibly just too ignorant to even realize that America just had this revolution that has begun to overthrow the corporate satanic globalist dictatorial powers intent upon permanently enslaving all of America and the world. And special snowflakes are now threatening to unleash a violent revolution upon America with one with one lost soul actually outright calling for bloodshed and death while on CNN. While we are huge supporters of legal protests here at ANP, and we're quite sure he'll be try that. We'll be quite sure we'll be writing critical stories of Donald Trump and his presidency over the next 8 years. Yes, I did say 8. The fact that illuminists such as singer Katy Perry are actually calling for revolution on Twitter, apparently seeking to permanently overthrow our republic, satanic globalists enslave America, helps prove America isn't quite out of the woods yet and has a long way to go. And with most snowflakes and cupcakes having no idea that a Hillary Clinton presidency likely would have quickly led to not only their own deaths, but the deaths of most every other person they have ever known, with even the Kremlin again claiming a Clinton presidency would have led to World War III and likely nuclear annihilation for America and much of the world. Thousands of unaware Americans are actually protesting the fact that their lives will continue and not come to a radioactivity abrupt end. The death of a rotten to the core dynasty that has brought widespread corruption and shame upon America. They prove to us just how dumbed down a huge part of America has become. And while that part of America remains hopeless, as we see on the map below showing election results county to county, most America is a shiny red ocean, except for big cities, the left coast, and near the border with Mexico, where blue dominates. With this map proving to us that most of America clearly saw what was going on and voted out a failing ideology in favor of giving America a very real chance despite the myriad problems that we face, we also see that America's big cities, which will instantly become death traps in an economic collapse, overwhelmingly voted Clinton, skewing the final voting numbers, which showed Hillary ended up winning the popular vote. Map is on here if you'd like to take a look at that map. It says, with countless cupcakes shouting, "Not my president," and burning orange-haired effigies of our next president, we have to ask, are we about to witness insane violence on U.S. streets from people who don't even realize that their lives may be about to get much, much better under President Trump? Do they not understand we'll now get someone in charge of America who will bring jobs back to our country and focus on America first rather than further sinking America into globalist tyranny? Generation in America really believes that America and the world would be a better place under President Hillary Clinton. Is take a look at the mess she helped create in the Middle East, with Syria a fallen nation due to her policies, certainly not Donald Trump's. Back in the second debate, Trump actually triggered Clinton's foreign policy spokesperson, Jesse Lyric, after Trump told the entire world that Muslim America U.S. Army Captain Khan would still be alive if he had been in charge because he would have never invaded Iraq and Khan wouldn't have been in a position to die in a war that America never should have been in. This social justice warrior, special snowflake, Lyric either couldn't hold back his pure and total ignorance or has proven to America he's just another warmonger intent upon death and destruction for the world. And it goes on down here and says, are Americans' younger generation so ignorant now of the U.S. Constitution that protects our God-given rights that they don't even realize that they're simply tools of George Soros and our satanic globalist overlords intent upon ending all human rights and enslaving us all? Inconsolable and blaming everybody but herself for the end of her presidential aspirations, we get more evidence that Trump's election will indeed upset the world order, with America preparing to work upon America's problems and not the world's. Soros and his paid terrorists will likely continue to try to take down America. Hillary is not too happy that she won't be able to help him in the White House. Election proving to us that America does indeed still have a chance, despite all the globalist powers now aligning against us, attempting to sabotage Trump's presidency and bring war to the U.S. soil. We take a look below at several new videos of some of these fake protests paid for by terrorist supporter George Soros. Also look at new warnings that have come out that the globalists will continue to try to take down America, despite the fact that an American first president has just been voted into office. And as we move on into tomorrow, for all those now shouting, "He is not my president," we have to implore, please give him a chance. Barack Obama was not my president, but I and America gave him a chance for 8 full years, with desperate liberals already plotting to impeach President Trump before he has a chance to get into office, and threats being made against him. We understand why Trump's home at Trump Plaza has become a militarized zone with a no-fly zone placed in the airspace above it. We've criticized Obama relentlessly, and unlike the MSM with Clinton, we'll be sure to report on issues we don't like about Trump presidency, including violations of the rights of American citizens that his administration might carry out. All stand strongly against the kind of violence that we're now witnessing in protests across America. Once peaceful protests become unlawful and violent, those protesting against Trump are playing right into the hands of satanic globalists intent upon enslaving us all. As we're told in the second video below, Soros zombies have been unleashed upon America, just as the alternative news has warned would likely happen if somehow, through the grace of God, Trump was able to beat Hillary. Now that Trump has been able to dispose of Clinton, America will need to get it together, and quickly, before the masses play right into the globalist hands. And there's several videos here if you would like to take a look at those videos in that article. The next one we have is off of Bloomberg.com, and it says Trump outlines health care plan from Obamacare repeal to abortion. President-elect Donald Trump outlined some pieces program, largely following ideas he laid out during his campaign, from a repeal of Obamacare, his predecessor's signature health law, to language indicating opposition to abortion. The brief 310-word plan gives new detail about how Trump will replace the Affordable Health Care Act, or the ACA, except that it would include health savings accounts and an ability for insurers to sell coverage across state lines. The document, posted Thursday on the presidential transition website, is the first look at Trump's plan since the election. It includes protecting innocent human life from conception to natural death, and gives states a big role in regulating health insurance and in Medicaid health insurance programs for the poor. It recognizes that the problems with U.S. healthcare system did not begin with and will not end with the repeal of the ACA, according to the website. The document is similar to a March blueprint from Republican President-elect's campaign that endorsed a series of broad ideas popular on the right, including allowing insurers to sell plans across state lines, sending Medicaid funds as block grants to states, and making tax-free health savings account part of an estate. On his transition page Thursday, Trump hinted at softening the coverage guarantee for those with pre-existing conditions under the ACA, saying high-risk insurance programs for individuals who are sick or otherwise unable to get coverage would cover those with large medical expenses who have not maintained continuous coverage, repealing the ACA, a law passed in that brought insurance to about 20 million people who previously lacked it, could leave those with pre-existing conditions without insurance. The plan doesn't address the rising cost of prescription drugs, which has been under intensifying scrutiny in the past year in the U.S., nor the possibility of re-importing safe, cheaper medicines from abroad, which was one measure he'd called for in the past. Also doesn't say whether Trump would retain some of the Affordable Care Act's more popular provisions, including a rule allowing children to stay on their parents' plan to age 26. Trump is calling for a reform of Food and Drug Administration to put greater focus on the need of patients for new and innovative medical products. He says he will modernize Medicare, the U.S. health program for the elderly. During his bid for Republican nomination, Trump campaigned for stretches at a time without mentioning the ACA and was vague about his approach. Repeal and replace was something terrific, he said in July of 2015. I want to take care of everybody, he said at the time. His attacks intensified toward the end of the general election amid news of rising premiums on the exchanges. At his final rally on the eve of the election in Grand Rapids, Michigan, he called for repealing and replacing the disaster known as Obamacare. With Obamacare, premiums are surging, companies are leaving, insurers are fleeing, doctors are quitting, and deductibles are going right through the roof, he said. A Hillary Clinton presidency, he warned, would destroy American health care forever. So there's the information on that. The next one we have is off of BizPac Review, and it says, what does Trump's victory mean for energy policy? Climate sanity has been restored to the U.S. Real estate mogul Donald Trump has won the presidential election, and that likely means the Obama administration's global warming agenda will be massively scaled back or scrapped altogether. Trump, a Republican, has promised to cut the EPA, scrap the Paris Climate Treaty, and roll back rules holding back U.S. energy production. Just look at what Trump has promised, a source close to Trump's transition team told the Daily Caller News Foundation. Withdraw from Paris Climate Treaty, defund the UNFCCC, scrap EPA's greenhouse gas emissions rules, scrap the Waters of the U.S. rule, scrap steam protection rule, and remove obstacles to oil, gas, and coal production, the source said. Trump has promised to roll back much of President Barack Obama's global warming agenda, including the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, global warming rule for power plants. Pro-energy and global warming skeptics were thrilled at Trump's win. Climate sanity has been restored to the U.S. Morano, the published of global warming skeptic website Climate Depot, said in a statement. No longer do we have to hear otherwise intelligent people in charge in D.C. blather on about how the UN treaties or EPA regulations will control the Earth's temperature or storminess, he said. Trump's win comes as United Nations delegates meet in Morocco to discuss how to implement a major global warming agreement hashed out in Paris last year. Trump promised to tear up the agreement and scrap the main way Obama planned on meeting his climate pledge. Some 27 states and dozens of businesses and union groups challenged the so-called Clean Power Plan, or CPP, in court. Legal experts expected the rule to be upheld by the D.C. Federal Circuit Court, but Trump win makes a legal victory for EPA less important. The CPP was the main regulation Obama was relying on to meet a pledge he made to the UN members to get the Paris Agreement passed. Obama pledged to cut U.S. greenhouse gas emissions 26 to 28% by 2025. That's not likely without the CPP. The time for a Selixt has arrived, a U.S. exit from the UN Paris Climate Agreement, Morano said. Trump made the so-called war on coal a major part of his campaign message, traveling across coal states, attacking EPA regulations for hurting miners. Trump handily won in coal states like Kentucky, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Trump's victories in Ohio and Pennsylvania, key swing states, were in no small part due to huge turnout in coal mining regions of the state. Trump's stance on trade and energy likely resonate with voters there. We anticipate good policies moving forward, such as Keystone XL and Dakota Access Pipelines, liquefied natural gas exports, and energy projects on non-park, non-wilderness federal lands. Tim Wigley, president of the petroleum industry-backed Western Energy Alliance, said in a statement. UN delegates who've worked for years to craft a global climate treaty were stunned at Trump's victory. Some foreign officials said Trump would not be able to undo the Paris Agreement. As I speak, 103 countries representing 70% of greenhouse gas emissions have ratified it. He cannot and he cannot, contrary to his assertions, undo the Paris Agreement. Céline Royal, France's environmental minister, told French media. Environmentalists were similarly convinced Trump would not be able to undo the Paris deal. So there's that information. The next one is off BizPack Review, and it says, "People have to die. Protesters take radical to scary new level during CNN live shot." Protests. It says, stirred along by a complicit media and hard left celebrities, the anti-Trump rhetoric reached levels of hysteria Wednesday night as America came to grips with Donald Trump being elected president of the United States. And nowhere was that more apparent than in California, where a young Latino woman was captured on video calling for violence and death to ensure more acceptable electoral results. If we don't fight, who's going to fight for us? People had to die for your freedom where we're at today, she told a CNN reporter. We can't just do rallies. We have to fight back, the woman continued. There will be casualties on both sides. There will be, because people have to die to make a change in this world. And to be clear, she was directing her ire at Donald Trump and the idea of America being a sovereign nation. With your racism, she added, stop splitting families. Don't split my family. And there's video in this if you would like to see that. The next one we have is off of AlanBWest.com, and it says, Rachel Maddow's election coverage meltdown is one for the ages. One of the best parts of Donald Trump's election victory is watching all the nutty left-wing liberals absolutely lose their minds over their huge and historic loss. It finally dawns onto them, Americans reject both big government and the criminal cronyism represented by Hillary Clinton. While many of these responses have been pleasant to watch, none will satisfy the soul quite like MSNBC's Rachel Maddow, who had a total meltdown during MSNBC coverage of the election. According to Express, a various major U.S. news network prepared to confirm the Republicans' victory over Hillary Clinton, MSNBC host Rachel Maddow gave a bitter response. The somber host told MSNBC viewers as Trump edged toward victory, "You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead, and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country. It's real." Social media users attacked the television anchor for her moaning comments following on from Mr. Trump securing the key swing states, Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina. One Twitter user wrote, "I'm sick of Rachel Maddow and all the MSNBC people acting like they're so stunned that Donald Trump is winning. He stands for America." Another posted, "Meltdown of the night. Rachel Maddow is losing it as Trump wins Ohio, North Carolina, and it's hilarious. Do you guys smell that? Take a deep breath in. Savor that scent. It's the smell of failure oozing off liberals all across the country, and man, is it pleasing to the olfactory senses. Now that the liberal dream has been crushed into dust, we all need to unite behind President Trump and work toward implementing policies in order to truly make America great again." Next article is off of foxnews.com, and it says, "Boss says employees who agree with Trump's rhetoric should resign." And this is going to try to play something here, and I've got to try to get it shut down before it starts blurting out a bunch of stuff that we don't want to hear on here. So I'm waiting for it to kick in so I can kill it. I'm going to nip it in the bud, as old Barney Fife would say. Oh my goodness. Okay, we've got that killed. Now, this says, if you voted for Donald Trump, you may not feel welcomed at the Grubhub. The CEO of Grubhub, an online food delivery service, sent a company-wide email Wednesday suggesting employees who agree with President-elect Donald Trump's behaviors and his campaign rhetoric should resign. And here it is, the quote. "If you do not agree with this statement, then please reply to this email with your resignation because you have no place here," wrote Matt Maloney, co-founder of Grubhub. "We do not tolerate hateful attitudes on our team." A Hillary Clinton supporter sent the email Wednesday afternoon with this subject line, "So that happened. Who's next?" He made it clear in the email statement that he is personally stunned and deeply concerned with the result of Tuesday's election. "I absolutely reject the nationalist, anti-immigrant, and hateful policies of Donald Trump and will work to shield our community from this movement as best I can," Maloney wrote about Trump supporters. "I want to reaffirm to anyone in our team or feels personally exposed that I and everyone else here at Grubhub will fight for your dignity and your right to make a better life for yourself and your family here in the United States." The CEO made it clear he's particularly concerned Trump victory will empower others in his workplace to act out against marginalized groups, while demeaning, insulting, and ridiculing minorities, immigrants, and the physically, mentally disabled workers for Mr. Trump. "I want to be clear that this behavior and these views have no place at Grubhub," Maloney explained, adding if it were up to him, and fired a long time ago. Had he worked here, many of his comments would have resulted in his immediate termination. Maloney tells Fox News that almost 20% of his employees have personally thanked him for the note. "I'm not embarrassed by it," he said. The CEO said that he deeply respects the rights of people to vote for whoever they decide, but he simply wanted to reassure our employees that our company will actively support diversity and inclusion regardless of national politics. It's noteworthy because it underscores the fine line between intersection of politics and business, especially given the diverse presidential campaign of the past year and a half. Author of "It's Okay to Be the Boss" calls the letter extraordinary because while a CEO has the right to build the kind of corporate culture he or she wants, Tolgan advises business leaders to stay away from politics. Much of that message could have been communicated without making direct reference to the election, Tolgan said of a Maloney's email. "Anytime you are talking about things that are not at work, you're risking potentially alienating people, making people feel uncomfortable or unwelcome at work." Mark Horstman, co-founder of Manager Tools, says if he were advising Mr. Maloney, he would have recommended he not send the note particularly because he's the CEO of a public company. While Maloney seemingly calls out Trump supporters at his company on one hand, the young CEO boasted about the company's supportive and inclusive culture on the other, saying he firmly believes that we must bring together different perspectives. Evoking Clinton's campaign slogan, Maloney says, "We are stronger together," and he ends his letter to his employees by echoing Clinton's concession speech, saying Trump administration deserves our open minds and chance to lead, imploring his employees to stay strong. The next one we have here is off of dailymail.com, and it says, Silicon Valley investors kickstart campaign urging California to break away from the U.S. as searches for secession after election results. And the highlights on this say Hyperloop, one, co-founder Shervin Pishever proposed that California should secede from the United States to escape a Trump presidency. Pishever tweeted that if Trump won, he would be announcing and funding a legitimate campaign for California to become its own nation. He said he would call the potential sovereign body New California and labeled it as the most patriotic thing he could do. Other Silicon Valley investors support him, like Cheeseburger founder Ben Design Incorporated CEO Mark Hemmon, and Path founder David Morin. The Constitution includes procedures as to how a new state can enter the Union, but it does not say how one can exit. No state has ever seceded from the Union in American history. And the article reads, a Silicon Valley guru has proposed Cal exit for California as the state tops the list for people searching succession from the United States following Donald Trump's victory. Venture capital and co-founder of Hyperloop, one, Chevron Pishevar, has produced a 25-page document outlining the exit process, which promises to create the sixth largest economy in the world. On Tuesday night, as the election unfolded, Pishevar tweeted that if the billionaire won the race, he would be announcing and funding a legitimate campaign for California to become its own nation. And there's some charts and stuff in this, and some pictures if you want to take a look at those. There's some tweets, and then it goes on. It says, after Hillary Clinton conceded the election to Trump, Pishevar said that he is 100% serious about the proposal and already has a name for the potential sovereign body. It's the most patriotic thing I can do, he told CNBC on Wednesday. This country is at serious crossroads, calling it New California. Pishevar, age 42, explained that how his plan for the state would become a catalyst for national dialogue as the country has reached its tipping point. We can re-enter the Union after California becomes a nation, Pishevar, who is not married, said. As the sixth largest economy in the world, the economic engine of the nation and provider of the large percentage of federal budget, California carries a lot of weight. According to the International Monetary Fund, in 2015, California had the sixth largest economy in the world with gross state product of $2.496 trillion. In addition, the state is a key stronghold for Democrats and is more politically progressive than other states in the country. With a population of more than 38.8 million people as of 2014, California is the most populated state and has the largest populations of four major ethnic groups, making it one of the most diverse states in the country, according to the Census Bureau. Pishevar, who was listed at number 86 on Forbes' annual, the Midas list, added that the United States needs to confront the systematic problems that this election has exposed. In taking steps towards making this happen, Pishevar resigned from the prestigious J. William Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board. He sent a letter to President Obama saying he cannot serve with good conscience as President Trump Try that again. He cannot serve in good conscience a President Trump in any capacity on Wednesday. Peshawar also tweeted a mock-up of what he would envision the new flag for the new California Republic to be, featuring the state's signature bear. Peshawar, who is an influential Uber investor, is not the only person in the Silicon Valley who wants California to secede from the U.S., as he garnered support from people like cheeseburger founder Ben Huh, Design Incorporated CEO Mark Harriman, and Path founder David Morin. Searches for succession rocketed as soon as it appeared Donald Trump was going to win the White House, with the largest figures coming from California, followed by Vermont, Oregon, and Washington. Video in this, if you want to see that, and it goes on and says angel investor Jason Calacanis said that it would be simple in the wake of both Trump's White House win and Brexit. On Twitter, Calacanis said, if Trump can win, and after the Brexit, California's succession would be a layup. California is increasingly more distinct from America. Evan Lowe, a Democrat currently serving in California State Assembly, chimed in saying he'd support introducing the bill to start the process. In the disastrous case that real Donald Trump is elected, I will explore intro of a bill to have California secede from the union. Hashtag kidding, not kidding, Lowe tweeted. Back in the summer, roughly 100 tech leaders signed an open letter that warned about how a Trump presidency would be a disaster for innovation. And there's some tweets in there if you want to read those. And it goes on, it says Peshawar's recent actions echo a similar movement that started in 2015 when the Yes California campaign was launched by political activist Louis Marcinelli, as he called to create a free and independent Californian republic. He is now proposing a 2019 referendum that follows the model being adopted by Catalonia to gain independence from Spain, The Guardian reported. There is no clear path as to how the state could appeal to the federal government, so it may leave the United States. The Constitution includes procedures as to how a new state can enter the Union, but it does not say how one can exit. Some have proposed to amend the Constitution to allow states who want to secede from America to do so under that amendment. However, proving to amend the Constitution is extremely difficult, as it requires either 2/3 of each branch of Congress and 2/3 states at a specially formed constitutional convention, with the said amendment being then ratified by 3/4 of the states. And the 227-year history of the Constitution, it has only been amended 17 times, and no state has ever seceded from the Union in American history. Eric McDaniel, associate professor of government at the University of Texas at Austin, told Business Insider that the legality of seceding is problematic. The Civil War played a very big role in establishing the power of the federal government and cementing that the federal government has the final say in these issues, he said. And there's an insert then in this that says, is it possible for a state to secede from the U.S.? There's no clear path as to how any state could appeal to the federal government for it to leave the United States. Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution includes procedures as to how a new state can enter the Union. However, it does not say how one can exit. There is no clear mechanism for the President of the United States or Congress to allow a state to leave the country and become sovereign. An amendment to the Constitution to allow a state to secede from America could happen, but it would prove to be extremely difficult. Amending the Constitution requires either 2/3 of each branch of Congress or 2/3 of states at a specially formed constitutional convention, with the said amendment being then ratified by 3/4 of the states. In the 227-year history of the Constitution, it has only been amended 17 times, and no state has ever succeeded from the Union in American history. Over the years, though, the topic has been raised in several states before, including both Texas and California. There you have that. Next one I have for you is off of thedailygalaxy.com, and it says, Trump's NASA transition team. Global is human exploration of our entire solar system. Try that again. Goal is human exploration of our entire solar system. Donald Trump's space advisors want his space program to focus more on human deep space exploration and less on researching the Earth and climate science. And the emerging commercial spaceflight industry will play a significant role in space policy moving forward. In a recent op-ed in Space News, written by Robert S. Walker, former chairman of the House Science Committee, and Peter Navarro, an economist and public policy expert, suggested that NASA should be focused primarily on deep space activities rather than Earth-centric work that is better handled by other agencies. Human exploration of entire solar system by the end of this century should be NASA's focus and goal. We've laid out our vision to have human exploration of the entire solar system by the end of the century, Walker told The Verge. That certainly includes the moon and Mars, and well beyond most of those. Walker, who wrote Trump's proposed space policy, says the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association should take over all of NASA's satellite missions that are used to research Earth and its climate. The science that is being doing is essentially Earth-based science, Walker told The Verge. It relates to weather, it relates to Earth-based needs, and so NOAA is probably a more appropriate place for that to be done. This policy move could restructure NASA's Earth Science Division, which has seen a relatively steady increase in funding under the Obama administration. NASA has received $1.921 billion for its Earth Science Division for fiscal year 2016, up from $1.5 billion in 2009. However, there are no known plans to increase funding to NOAA for this transition. During the Obama administration, NASA has launched a series of key Earth observing satellites, such as Deep Space Climate Observatory, or the DSCBR, and the Jason satellites, which have gathered valuable data about Earth's climate, space weather, sea level changes, and more. They're not going to be able to cut Earth science by $1 billion and use that for exploration, Jim Muncy, founder of Polyspace, a space policy consulting agency, told The Verge. But with the Republicans in the Senate and the House, we haven't had undivided government like this since the beginning of Obama. Walker and Navarro made it clear that strong public-private partnerships like that with SpaceX, tasked with ferrying people and cargo to and from International Space Station, will continue, and that they will seek to turn the International Space Station into a quasi-public facility, something NASA has expressed interest in doing for some time. When Obama came into office, his transition team, led by Lori Garver, eventually canceled Constellation and put NASA on a path to Mars instead, completely redirecting the space agency's focus. Garver suggests that Trump transition team, led by George H.W. Bush's former space policy advisor, Mark Albright, could make drastic changes as well. Headed by Clinton's, they really just weren't planning to have nearly the amount of investigative hard look at things as they likely will now, Garver told The Verge. So in many ways, if it was Hillary, it was going to be very difficult or very different transition than mine. And now I think it will be more similar. NASA is very resilient partisan agency, and a fresh look is a positive thing. There are plenty of extremely good Republicans who have been advising Trump I think NASA will be okay. The Daily Galaxy by The Verge and spacenews.com. The next article we have is off of space.com, and it says, experience the new Oculus Touch. Impossible space engine might actually work, study suggests. A controversial and puzzling engine design known as the M drive generated small amounts of thrust in the lab test, NASA researchers reported in the study, which is yet to be published or peer-reviewed, but it was recently leaked online. The M drive, which was developed by British researchers Roger Sawyer more than a decade ago, generates thrust by bouncing microwaves around inside a cone-shaped chamber. According to Newton's third law of motion, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This shouldn't work because there's no exhaust expelled out of the M drive system. Think about rockets, which get their oomph by blasting superheated gases and other materials out of nozzles at high speeds. But NASA team, led by Harold Sonny White of the agency's Johnson Space Center in Houston, did measure some thrust. Specifically, their M drive variant produced about 1.2 millitons of force per kilowatt of energy. That's about 100 times more thrust than solar sailing spacecraft, which harness the momentum of photons streaming from the sun, are able to achieve, White and his colleagues wrote. Like solar sails, the M drive requires no propellant. A spacecraft equipped with this propulsion system could generate all the microwaves it needs using solar panels. So the M drive could make space travel much cheaper and faster, theoretically opening up the heavens to greater exploration, advocates have said. And there is some video if you'd like to take a look at that in that article. It says, don't get too excited. That's a long way from happening, if it happens at all. The new study is just proof of concept, and further testing is needed to definitely rule out all the possibility or all the possible sources of experimental error. White and his team said, for example, it's possible that air within the M drive system could have heated up and expanded, causing some of the observed effect, the researchers wrote. But the new result is the latest in a series of apparent successes for M drive technology. Sawyer reported generating thrust with his version, as did Chinese researchers who tested their own variant in 2012, and White and his colleagues reported a positive result back in 2013 as well. So this seemingly impossible engine may actually work, perhaps by somehow harnessing the energy of subatomic particles that are consistently popping into and out of existence. White and his team have speculated. Sawyer has his own ideas about what's happening inside the M drive, and he doesn't think Newton's third law is being violated at all. And you can check out his explanation at this link provided in this URL if you want to check that out. And there's some other papers and stuff on this that you can click the links and observe on the M drive. But I thought that was very, very interesting on what they're coming up with there. I mean, that could be a lot of different ways. Next one we have for you is off of livescience.com. It says 8 galaxies with unusual names. And I thought you might get a kick out of this one, so we'll check this out. The first one is called the Loopy Galaxy. I know a whole bunch of people need to move there. And it says, what's in a name? When it comes to catchy monikers, most galaxies come up short, but perhaps that isn't so surprising. With an estimated 100 billion to 200 billion galaxies in the known universe, it's no wonder that the majority of galaxies that have been identified thus far go by a catalog number like M51, GNZ11, and IOK1, for example. Those arrangements of numbers and letters are loaded with meaning for astronomers, but they don't actually inspire the imagination. However, a handful of galaxies have fared a little better in the naming department. that are distinctively shaped, extremely close by and easy to observe, or just exceptionally photogenic. Here's a look at some of these galaxies with standard names. And Milky Way galaxy, our home galaxy. The Milky Way measures 100,000 light years in diameter and is thought to contain at least 100 billion stars and possibly as many as 400 billion or more. It is bared, or try that again. It is a barred with a central bar structure running across its core. Though the Milky Way was long thought to have two spiral arms, a 12-year study published in the journal Monthly Notices of Royal Astronomical Society in 2013 confirmed that the galaxy has four major arms. Our sun and solar system are located on a minor structure known as the Orion arm, about 26,000 light years from Milky Way's center. Thousands of years ago, the Milky Way's bright shawl of stars, dust, and gas stretching across the night sky inspired the ancient Greeks to lend it a Milky name, though historians are uncertain as to when it was first referred to as the Milky Way. According to Matthew Stanley, a professor of the history and science at Galatian School of Individualized Study at New York University. And the next one here is called the Tadpole Galaxy. A close encounter with another galaxy disrupted the spiral galaxy AR 8, commonly known as the Tadpole Galaxy. Like its aquatic impium, the tadpole has an oval head, the main part of the spiral, and a long trailing tail. The sweeping appendage measures about 280,000 light years in length and is studded with enormous and brilliant star clusters. It likely formed when another galaxy approached too close to the tadpole and was swung around behind it by gravitational forces. That same attraction probably teased out the ribbon of stars and gases that now trails behind the tadpole, according to a NASA description. The Black Eye Galaxy. Messier 64, M64, has somewhat sinister common name, the Black Eye for Evil Eye Galaxy, inspired by the dark band of dust surrounding its bright core. The shadowy band likely formed after a collision with another galaxy. In the 1990s, scientists discovered that gas in the Black Eye outer region was rotating counterclockwise, the opposite direction from the gas and stars closer to the center. Astronomers suspected that the unusual region is the last remnant of a smaller galaxy that collided with the Black Eye over 1 billion years ago and was gradually absorbed. The Black Eye is located in the constellation Coma Berenices, approximately 17 million light years from Earth, and was catalogued by French astronomer Charles Messier in the 18th century. The next one is the Sombrero Galaxy. The Sombrero is a special galaxy, and an unusual hat-like shape is suggested by our perspective on its position in space. Viewed edge-on from Earth, this creates the illusion of a hat's brim, the outermost ring of stars, and a crown where the luminous core bulges at the center, circled by darker lanes of dust. Also known as Mesmer 104 or M104, the Sombrero is located about 28 million light years from Earth and measures about 50,000 light years across. It's one of the most massive objects in the Virgo cluster, as big as 800 billion suns, according to the Hubble Space Telescope website. The next one is called the Whirlpool Galaxy. Like our own Milky Way, the Whirlpool Messier 51 or M51 is a spiral galaxy, common galaxy type, representing about 77% of all galaxies in the universe. The multiple arms curving outward and wrapping around a bright center. Its yellowish core is home to older stars, while younger and brighter stars are visible along its arms. The arms of the whirlpool as in spiral galaxies, are stellar nurseries where infant stars are born. At only 25 million light years from Earth and measuring 60,000 light years across, the Whirlpool Galaxy visible to astronomers and has been called one of astronomy's galactic darlings by a Space Telescope Science Institute. Stellar deaths have been detected in the whirlpool as well. Observers reported these supernovas as a star's explosive demise, according to the whirlpool during the past 17 years in 1994, 2005, and 2011. The next one is called the Cigar Galaxy, located in Ursa Major constellation, about 13 million light years from Earth. The Cigar Galaxy was named for the long elliptical shape of its disk, is how it appears relative to our sightline. Also called Mesmer 82 or M82, the cigar is known as a starburst galaxy, one with an exceptionally bright or high star birth rate. In its central region, stars are produced 10 times faster than the Milky Way galaxy, according to the European Space Agency, or the ESA. This 6-image composite mosaic, the sharpest wide-angle view ever obtained of the Cigar Galaxy, was assembled from images taken by NASA's ESA Hubble Space Telescope in March of 2006. The next is called the Cartwheel Galaxy, resembling an oversized wagon wheel. The Cartwheel Galaxy is estimated to measure 150,000 light years across. It has a bright center with wispy spokes and gas radiating outward to a surrounding ring of stars, which is about 1.5 times the size of Milky Way, according to the Hubble Space Telescope website. The cartwheel's unusual shape was caused by a dramatic head-on cosmic collision millions of years ago, according to a description on the Chandra X-ray Observatory website. It was originally a large spiral galaxy, but smaller galaxy perforated its center, disrupting stars, much like stone dropped in the water causes outward spreading ripples. It's located 500 million light years from Earth in the Sculptor constellation. Next one is called the Sunflower Galaxy. And it says Galaxy Messier 63 or M63, also known as the Sunflower Galaxy, was the 63rd entry in the French astronomer Charles Messier's catalog of celestial objects published in 1781, and was given its flowery name for the tight spiraling of its many arms, which was thought to be reminiscent of the pattern at a sunflower center. The sunflower is about 27 million light years from Earth in the constellation Canes, Benetici, the hunting dogs, and is part of the M51 group, a collection of galaxies that also appears in Messier's catalog and is named for Galaxy M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy. That illuminates the sunflower spiral is generated by newly formed blue-white giant stars, according to the Hubble Space Telescope website. The next one and last one, waiting for it to come up here. Well, I guess that was the last one. Okay. That was it. And then they want to give me a bunch of advertisements. All right. So there you have those 8 galaxies with unusual names. I thought that was fascinating to learn about that. Educate you a little bit here, besides bringing you, all this gloom and doom and fighting and writing and fussing and feuding. Next one is off of space.com, and this one is 6 most likely places for alien life in the solar system. We still don't have hard evidence that any life that's not of this Earth, but across our solar system, there are some tantalizing possibilities for primitive life to find a haven. Some moons of Jupiter and Saturn are intriguing, and there's also the chance for some surprises somewhere on Mars. Here's my top 6 candidates for the best spots to search for primitive alien life in our solar system. The first stop is Enceladus. Seth Shattuck is a senior astronomer at SETI Institute in the Mountain View, California. And this Enceladus, try that again, Enceladus 2005, NASA's Cassini spacecraft photographed geysers of frozen water spewing from cracks in Enceladus, southern hemisphere. Scientists think reservoirs of liquid water lie beneath the frozen surface and are warmed by gravitational interactions between Enceladus and other moons around Saturn. The necessities for life are there, and maybe Enceladus are as well. The moon has a mean radius of 156.6 miles, and the next one is Mars. Mars remains perennially popular for those hunting for otherworldly protoplasm. Particularly intriguing are the dark stripes that appear in the Martian summertime at Horowitz crater. These are likely to be salty meltwater only inches beneath Mars' dusty epidermis. A relatively simple probe could sample this muddy environment. Mars has a diameter of about 4,212 miles. The next one is Titan. And this says, Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Facts discovery, Titan is Saturn's largest moon and only world. Try that again. Titan is Saturn's largest moon and the only world in the solar system besides Earth known to sport liquid lakes. These are lakes of ethane and methane, liquid natural gas, endlessly topped up by hydrocarbon rain. Despite the odd ingredients in Titan's Gilead temperatures, which is minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit, it is a world where chemistry is happening enterprise. Titan possesses diameter of 3,200 miles. The next one is Europa. Many would grant Europa a higher potential life rating than I have, since there's probably more liquid water here than oceans. The downside is that Europa's vast salty seas lie beneath roughly 10 miles of ice. Not only is it difficult to get a probe beneath this icy armor, but Europa's oceans are darker than a cave, which means photosynthesis won't work. However, something down there may subsist on geothermal heat or complex molecules from the surface. Europa possesses a mean radius of 970 miles. Next stop is Venus, the hellish planet. A surprising entry in the exobiology sweepstakes is our sister planet Venus, with its scorching surface temperatures of 180, again 850 degrees Fahrenheit. The planet is generally assumed to be as sterile as a boiled mule. But planetary scientist David Grinspoon, astrobiology curator at the Denver Museum of Natural, tongue-tied, of the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, points out that high in the Venusian atmosphere, temperatures are refreshingly tolerable. Atmospheric sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide might serve as food for floating microbes. Venus is 7,521 miles wide. The next one would be Castillo and Ganymede. I consider these two moons of Jupiter together as I feel they're neck and neck, like their more celebrated neighbors, Europa, Ganymede, and Castillo may have varied liquid oceans. But however, in the case of these two satellite siblings, briny depths would underlie at least 60 miles of rock. Finding inhabitants here is a shovel-ready project for our grandkids. Castillo has a diameter of more than 2,985 miles. Ganymede's diameter is 3,270 miles. So there you have that article. I thought you might be interested in that, wondering where our alien friends may reside, if they are indeed in this galaxy at all. This one I have is your feel good, and this is going to be a screen share. I think you will love this. I thought this was absolutely adorable. This is your feel good, and for anybody who's new here, I always like to end the show with something that lifts your spirits, makes you feel good, get your mind off some of this negativity that we have to deal with in our news-related life. So I'll do a screen share with this and play this for you.
How deep is the deepest spot in the Pacific Ocean? 7 miles. Miles. Very good. Yes. So the title of this book is Can I Fake Tooth by Mo Lewis. This is so special. I didn't see that coming. I didn't feel tired anymore, actually. It kind of took all that away. I'm so happy. I wish I were always there after a workout. Can't talk right now. Getting attacked.
So there you have that. I thought you'd get a kick out of that. That's a sweet little story there, you know, about the puppies. Who can not like a little puppy? My goodness gracious. And it kind of brings you back to reality on what is important in your life. You know, love for your family, love for your children, love for your pets. That's the kind of thing that's truly, truly important. We're not put here on this earth for a bunch of fussing and feuding and fighting. We're put here to be creative and to love one another and you know, try to make a good world. And more people would probably feel a lot better about themselves if they'd try that. So with that, I'm going to turn you loose for today. And this is Friday, so I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I hope you're able to get outside and enjoy the fall weather. If you get a chance, kick off your shoes and put your feet down in the grass, curl up your toes a little bit, soak up a little bit of that earth energy and ground yourself. Take a deep breath of fresh air and be glad that you woke up above ground. We'll catch you later. Bye.